our seminar is going to begin. So please make sure you have registered yourselves and join the link virtually. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our international seminar with the theme Policy Strategy for Economic Recovery, Thursday, 29 of April, 2021. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Shalom, Namo Buddhaya. Honorable, the head of the Foundation of Yayasan Kesejahteraan Korpri, Bali Province, Rector of Warmadewa University, Profesor Dr. Dewa Putuwijana, DAPE SPPHAP, the Director of Postgraduate Program, Warmadewa University and staff, Dean of Faculty of Social Science and Political Science, Warmadewa University, Honorable all invited speakers, Professor Nihil P. Vairaya, PhD from University of Washington. Good evening, Prof. Profesor Dr. Eko Prasojo, MAG Rare Public, President of ALPA dari VIA University of Indonesia as a speaker, and Asok Professor Ilham Sentosa from University of Kuala Lumpur, Dr. Andes Iketut Putra Erawan, MA PhD, Lecturer of University of Udayana and Master of Public Administration, Warmadewa University. And Dr. Andes Nyoman Sujaya M. Hum, as moderator of this international seminar. And all participants who have joined us. In the following, we mention the rundown of the seminar. The first, opening, and the second, national anthem of Indonesia, and then the spirit song of Warmadewa University, Sabta Bayu, speech from the rector Warmadewa University and opening the section, presentation and discussion guided by the moderator, and lastly, closing the seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the Indonesian anthem and the spirit song of Warmadewa University, Sabta Bayu. Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the next section, that is the speech by the rector, and we'll also open this international seminar. Professor Dr. Dewa Putuwijana, time is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the time provided to me to give short speech in this very important event. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Namo Buddhaya. God bless all of us. Good morning. Honorable Head of Corporate Foundation, Dr. Ana Agung Oko Wisnumurti, Honorable invited speakers, Professor Nikhil P. Wairaya. Sorry if it is no precise spelling, from University of Washington. Honorable Professor Eko Prasojo, the President of Asian Group for Public Administration. Dr. Anus Ketut Putra Erawan MA, PhD, Head of Warmadewa International Affairs, and Associate Professor Dr. Ilham Santosa from UNIKL, University of Kuala Lumpur. honorable deans, and the director of a graduate program, University of Warmadewa, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to take this great opportunity to express my thanks mainly to the invited speaker and all participants for willing to attending today's international seminar entitled Policy Strategies for Economic Recovery, organized by the Department of Graduate Study of Public Administration, University of Warmadewa. As it is known that the COVID-19 pandemic has damaged all aspects of life, including the joint of economic life. Even the governor of Bali province stated that the damage of Bali's economy due to pandemic much greater if compared to Bali bombs. We can imagine it is needed a kind of outboxing public policy as an appropriate strategies to overcome the economic problem mentioned. In this relation, the present webinar is considered very essential to carry out. This is really a good opportunity for participants to get new views and experience, especially in the field of public policy, since all speakers are expert and well experienced in their respective discipline. To the participant, please be kind to involve actively to this webinar and don't be drop out. Well, finally, by the grace of God Almighty, I officially open this webinar. Thank you very much. Have a nice webinar. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Bapak Rektor. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the speech by Rector Warmadewa University. And now we come to the main section, that is presentation and discussion, that will be guided by Dr. Nyoman Sujaya. Mr. Nyoman Sujaya, take your time.
Thank you very much. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera buat kita semua. Salam budaya, salam kebajikan, dan salam sehat buat kita semua. Honorable the head of the Foundation of Kesejahteraan Korpri Provinsi Bali, Bapak Dr. dari Sana Agung Gede Wisnumurti MSc, Rector of Warmadewa University, Professor Dr. Dewa Putuwijana, DAPA SP Park, Director of Postgraduate Program, Warmadewa University, Ibu Dr. DRA Anak Agung Rai Sita Laksmi MSc, Head of Magister Program of Bapak Dr. DRS Anak Agong Ngedera ke MSI, Head of Dean of Faculty of Social Science and Political Science, Bapak DRS Iwayan Mir MSI, our distinguished guests, the speakers, Professor Niki Wainaraya, PhD from University of Washington, Professor Dr. Eko Prasojo, Magister Rare Publication from University of Indonesia, Associate Professor of Ilham Santoso from University of Kuala Lumpur, and DRS Ketut Putra Erawan MA PhD from University of Udayana. Dear lecturers and friends, and our beloved students, maybe from Indonesia and from Kuala Lumpur as well. And ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nyoman Sujaya, one of the lecturers at Magister Program of Linguistics, Warmadawa University, and I'll be your guide to this international seminar, taking theme policy strategy for economic recovery. I'm so delighted to see you all here virtually, and I'm eager to engage you with the issue of economy during the COVID-19. As mentioned by our rector just now, it is really a very important issue. Moreover, we have a qualified speaker one is from Washington, from University of Indonesia, and from Kuala Lumpur, as well as from Udayana University. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this session is about the presentation, and in this case, we require each of the speaker is required to do the presentation in more than 20 minutes, and after that, it is continued by the discussion. And the next step, the last step is the conclusion. But before going further, I would like to read a brief of the curriculum vitae of the speakers. Number one is Professor Nikhil Vairaya, PhD. He's a professor in the finance department who joined SDSU in 1988. Prior position include chair of the finance department and director of graduate programs. He teaches courses in competitive analysis, financial management, and financing emerging enterprises. He is a recipient of a 2005 and 6 Alumni Association Award for outstanding faculty contribution to the university, and outstanding faculty award from the finance department and the executive MBA program. His research has appeared in Journal of Finance, Management Science, Strategic Management Journal, Financial Analysis Journal, Enterprise Theory and Practice, among others, and is the recipient of outstanding paper award from Financial Management Association and Journal of Retailing. He is Director of Professional Development for the San Diego chapter of Financial Executive International and a charter member of TIE, South Coast of Organization Facilitating Entrepreneurship. And this will be continued by reading the curriculum from Professor Dr. Eko Prasejo. He is the professor in Faculty of Administration of Indonesia University, and He got the doctoral degree of public administration in 2000 in Germany for the magister degree, and he also has got many positions before. Among those, he's Ketua Departemen Ilmu Administrasi FISIP UI, anggota Dewan Pertimbangan Otonomi Daerah, Ketua Program Pasarjana Ilmu Administrasi FISIP in 2009 to 2011, and others, many positions that he has ever had. He also has got professional, he also has been taken part in organization, professional organization, I mean. In the sector of entrepreneurship, he has got the position of Komisaris Utama PT PN ke-11 2012 sampai 2014 and Komisaris PT Timah 2014 and 2017. And he also has got 10 dan 20 tahun dalam pengabdiannya sebagai PNS. Bidang Mahaputra Utama, bintang Mahaputra Utama dari Presiden Republik Indonesia atas jasanya sebagai Wakil Menteri PAN RB di tahun 2014. MIPI Award dari Masyarakat Ilmu Politik Indonesia di tahun 2017. Brabant Lecture Award dari IAS in 2019 and Habibie Award in 2019. And he is also a visiting professor in executive education. And his publication, he has got many publications, that is Demokrasi di Negeri Mimpi, Federalisme dan Negara Federal di tahun 2006, and Reformasi Kedua 2009, Desentralisasi dan Pemerintahan Daerah 2009, Pemerintahan Daerah di Jerman dan Prancis 2010, Memimpin Reformasi Birokrasi 2020. And Dr. Ketut Erawan PhD has got also a lot of experience during his work. That is, he is a lecturer of Fakulti Ilmu Sosial dan Ilmu Politik Universitas Udayana, and before he was a lecturer at Faculty of Social Science and Politics, Universitas Gajah Mada, Jakarta. Mr. Wira has got S 1993 and 1995. He also has got the school people and Henry Lewis, AS 1996, 1997. Has he got the award Percy Burchanan 1999, and graduate as assistantship from Northern Illinois University 2000 till 2003. In 2009, he has got the award for the Golden Anniversary Award from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Northern Illinois University. And now I'd like to read about the curriculum vitae of the Professor Ilham Santosa, PhD. He's from Kuala Lumpur, and his education, his doctoral degree he's got from University Utara, Malaysia, and Master of Public Administration, Gajah Mada University, Indonesia, 2002 to 2003, and bachelor degree in public management in 1997-2001. He's got a professional experiences. He's a data analyst, teaching research assistant, senior policy analyst, researcher, senior data analysis, teaching research assistant, lab instructor, and so on. So he's got many experience for the professional. Teaching experience is teaching assistant, lab instructor, and so on. And so he is a visiting lecturer, PhD, MBA thesis supervisor, and project supervisor for MBA students, and also thesis supervisors. And he is also international journal reviewers and chief editor. Okay, he has got trainer experience for many experiences, and expertise and research interests, current research interests, integrating meta-analysis into system dynamic and structural acquisition modeling. Other research interests, multi-level models, bootstrap methods, statistical mediation analysis. Training attended, so they have many training. Leadership and chain, among them is leadership and chain management on the property education policy. Awards he has got is that, and fellowship is that Gold Award, Outstanding Paper Award, and then Best Paper Award for Outstanding Paper Award, and then also Best Paper Award for Ali J. Hasan Santoso Pertama, and Best Paper Award for Santoso Pertama, Abdul Rashid, and Best Paper Award, and so on. Journals and publication, there are many journals, so we have got in here. So next, if you want to know more about this one, just ask Professor Ilham Santosa, PhD. Ladies and gentlemen, to make in short, I would like to come to the presentation session. As I told you before, that each of the presenter is required to present his material as paper in not more than 20 minutes. And I would like to start from Professor Nikhil Vairaya, PhD. Good morning, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the floor is yours. Okay.
Yes.
Have you take your time, and remember.
First, I want to make sure you can see my screen.
So you
can you see my screen?
Okay. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. We can see clearly.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. I want to thank the rector of Varmadeva University and all of the organizers of this seminar for inviting me to this event. And in particular, I also want to thank Dr. Neoman Sujaya for being the moderator, and also my fellow panelists who will be also presenting for this event. So let me start by sharing my screen. So the topic is that of a strategy for economic recovery after the pandemic. and I am giving a title for my presentation as Economic Impact of COVID-19. And what I will do is cover these topics briefly. The first one is what are the International Monetary Fund estimates of COVID-19 impact. Then I will talk about how COVID-19 has impacted Indonesia. Then talk about the topic of post-COVID-19 recovery, followed by the same topic but for Bali, and then sort of end with a general lesson for businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19. As we all know, COVID-19 has impacted the entire universe. No country appears to have been spared. And it is worth noting that while COVID-19 was or has been an event that has impacted us very severely, we want to see that in the context of another recent global crisis. So just like COVID-19 is a global crisis, if you all remember about 12 years ago or so, the world had an enormous financial crisis that started in the United States and it spread. So I want to provide a perspective that if I look at this column for COVID-19, so let me first get my pointer. So if I look at this column, COVID-19 has affected a lot of countries. About a 3% decline in gross domestic product all over the world. Low-income countries had the biggest impact, decline of about 6%. Emerging economies, including countries like Indonesia and other emerging economies, there was about a 4% output decline. Advanced economies such as a lot of Europe, America, Canada, etc., about a 1% decline. And of course, the average was about a 3% decline for the entire, for the world. But these numbers are small relative to what happened in the global financial crisis of about 12 years ago. World GDP went down by 9%. Advanced economies declined by about 10%. Emerging economies about 7%, and low-income countries about 5%. So these are data from the International Monetary Fund. And what they're telling us is that while this is a terrible event, a lot of damage has been done because of COVID-19, that the world sort of survived much bigger challenges. And so the world and most countries are going to come out of COVID-19 and will recover. And we will look at some data that talk about recovery. So the first thing that I wanted to make people aware is that while this is not good, countries have suffered. They suffered a lot more about 12 years ago in the previous global financial crisis. So the world came out of this and survived. We will come out of this and survive in a shorter time than the recovery from here. So that's the first sort of message that I want people to undertake, that whilst things are not good, we will come out of this soon. So here is some data for Indonesia. 2020 is sort of the year in which the pandemic struck everybody. If you look at Indonesia's performance was very strong. Average GDP growth rate was about 5% from 2016 to 2019. Then it took a big decline, about 2% decline. And according to the World Bank, the IMF report, 2021 projected increase in GDP in Indonesia is going to be about 4.8%. So we did well before. Indonesia has done well. They suffered like everybody else, and they're going to come out again in 2021. And I'm sure that Bali is going to follow a similar path. They will also be coming out and doing well. Here is information from the Jakarta Stock Exchange. Very robust growth in stock valuations. Decline in 2018, pick up again, big decline in 2020, but I expect that, I don't have data for 2021 yet, projected data, but I suspect that things are going to start picking up again over here. Indonesia's unemployment rate was pretty low. Over the period from 2016 to 2019, the unemployment rate is a little bit around 4%, which is a very good unemployment rate. It went up a little bit. You can see that from 2019 to 2020, it went up about 0.5%. My suspicion is that things will start to get better and it will start to go down. So the projections going forward for Indonesia and for Bali, I think, are going to be positive. And it is also being observed elsewhere in the global economy. The United States, to give you an idea, unemployment rate in the United States over this time period from 2016 to 2019 was around 4.5%. In the first 6 months of 2020, the unemployment rate in the United States was about 16%. Very large unemployment rate. It has started to go down. Today, the unemployment rate is about 6%, and the economy is picking up steam. So the projections are that going forward, the US economy is going to grow strongly. China is already doing well. And if these big countries or economic powers start to pick up, they are going to positively impact other countries such as Bali and Indonesia and Malaysia and so on. So the message is that going forward, things are looking better and they are on a positive trend. So what will be the drivers of a post-COVID-19 recovery? First is adapting to a second or third pandemic wave in 2021. We are seeing that some countries have had, they started off in March of 20 with the COVID virus. Things did not do well. Then they stabilized. And now in a few countries, we are seeing that the virus, because of various variants, is beginning to act up again. The question is going to be, have we learned some lessons from the first COVID-19 wave? And yes, countries have learned from that. We are adapting better to lockdowns. People are getting used to lockdowns. They are able to work with lockdowns a lot better second time around than before. People have realized the importance of social distancing. Though in some countries that is not the case. Recently, we have seen some events in India and other countries where, because of density of population, this is a challenge. And then, of course, that one of the big positive things that has come out of COVID-19 is how the digital economy has picked up. That countries have used the digital economy, they've used the web to carry out business. While I cannot eat at a restaurant, I can order food using the web from restaurants, so that restaurants are adopting different technologies to adapt to the situation. The other big factor for recovery is going to be the role of government spending. The amount of fiscal stimulus to offset the substantial drop in spending. So what basically has happened is that because of huge drop in spending or demand, businesses have suffered. As businesses have suffered, there's been a further drop in demand, drop in employment. And the way to help businesses is for the government to step in. Some countries have done a much better job of stepping in. For example, the United States, there was a huge fiscal stimulus that was given to businesses and to individuals. First, there was a direct payments, first time around about $600 to each taxpayer below a certain income level. Then businesses were given preferential loans, what was called the payment protection plan. So businesses were given loans at zero interest in order for them to maintain their production or keep their employees on payroll. So that was an important help that was provided. Financial institutions also work cooperatively. They decided to wait to give businesses time to pay off loans. So a lot of these activities were undertaken to help diminish the impact of the pandemic or the impact of the substantial decline in demand. And finally, and most importantly, is going to be availability of vaccines. I mean, it is very clear that countries will have to be very determined to provide vaccines to their citizens. And the more people get vaccines, the larger the percentage of the population that gets immunity, the better off is everybody going to be. So the United States, for example, is now working very strongly and at a furious pace to start providing vaccines. Nearly 45% or so of the population, I think, is now has at least one shot, and about 30% or so of the population is fully immunized. They have at least 2 shots if they are needed. You can start seeing that as the vaccine programs are picking up steam, people's attitudes are changing. People are becoming more positive. Consumer confidence is increasing. People are beginning to spend more. And so that is creating a positive stimulus for the economy. So the path for Bali is going to be sort of similar. The primary business sectors in Bali are tourism, agriculture, and small and medium enterprises. As we all know, Bali is an excellent tourist destination, and tourism is, of course, a major contributor to Bali's economy. And not only is tourism a major contributor, but tourism also helps agriculture and small and medium enterprises because they are there to serve the tourism industry. Tourism creates demand for agriculture. Tourism creates demand for a lot of the other products that they need that are provided by the small and medium enterprises. So it is important that tourism come back and come back strongly. So the question is, how quickly will tourism come back? Well, that will depend on the comfort level of tourists. And the bulk of the tourists that come to Bali are coming from Australia, New Zealand, China, and Europe. So these tourists have to feel comfortable about the post-COVID-19 health of Bali as determined by trends in COVID-19 infections, availability and delivery of vaccinations, safety of tourist accommodations, and then requirements and likelihood of quarantine in tourist home countries after Bali, Indonesia vacation or stay. So if I'm a tourist from the United States and I want to come to Indonesia and to Bali, the questions I will ask is, what is the trend of infections in Indonesia and Bali? That is going to depend on the availability and delivery of vaccinations. How safe are the tourist accommodations? And of course, if all of these things are there, then the requirements or likelihood of quarantine in tourist home countries is going to be low. But what happens is that if I come to a tourist destination and if I come back, my government is going to ask me to take a 2-week quarantine, then I might think before I decide to go to that destination. So this is something that is important, and I think all of countries that depend on tourism are very conscious of this situation. My last slide is on what are the business lessons of COVID-19. So how should a business become resilient?
Thank you.
Yes. This is my last slide. Dr. Newman, is it okay?
Thank you. Go on.
So very quickly, how do you become resilient is a big question for a business. The important thing is what's called availability of cash or liquidity. As we have seen, the typical COVID-19 was about 12 to 15 months. So if I'm a business, then I want to make sure that in the future, if there is another crisis like this, that I have sufficient cash in hand to cover my burn rate. So for example, if I'm burning $10,000 a month, I want to have a cash buffer or liquidity buffer of 120 to 180,000. How do I do that? One way is to keep cash on hand. The other possibility is to maintain access to a lending facility or line of credit from a bank or other funding source. And then finally, I have to manage what we call the operating leverage, the mix of variable or fixed costs. The higher our fixed costs relative to variable costs, the bigger is going to be my challenge if there's a big decline in demand. And then this is the last slide to give you a sense. In the United States, the Census of Manufacturers divides companies into 3 categories: less than 20 employees, between 21 and 500, and more than 500 employees. As you can see, less than 28 employees is about 88% of all companies. More than 500 employees is only about 0.5% of all companies. These large companies employ about 53% of the employees. These together employ about 47%. The average size of the company over here is about 5 employees, about 64, and about 3,067. Every time there's a steep decline in demand, these folks get affected quite a bit. I'm sure that even in Indonesia and Bali, a large majority of firms are in this category. So these companies are very vulnerable to steep decline in demand. That's just something that one has to keep in mind, that smaller companies get affected much more than larger companies. And that is just the nature of how businesses are. So let me stop over here, and we'll wait for either questions now or when all the presentations are done. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Professor Vairaya. If I'm not mistaken, your point is that emphasizing on the economic impacts of COVID-19. And in this case, you mentioned also the strategy, or let's say the drivers, or what to do to anticipate the COVID-19. That is about the adaptation, government spending, and vaccine availability. Tourism, indeed, in Bali and Indonesia will come back as before. If there will be it is quite dependent upon the comfort of tourists. Yeah, I think that is the emphasized by the Professor Vairaya. Thank you very much. So this is very, very valuable for us and for everybody in here. And of course, in the discussion session, there will be a question arise to you. Okay, thank you very much again. And now I would like to invite the second. Okay, now I would like to invite the second speaker, that is Professor Dr. Eko Prasojo from University of Indonesia. Good afternoon, Professor Eko Prasojo.
Good afternoon, Pak Nyoman Sujaya.
Thank you very much. It is your time to do the presentation. And as I said before, that you are required to do it in not more than 20 minutes. Thank you very much for your kindness, Professor Prasojo. Take your time.
Thank you very much, Pak Nyoman Sujaya, Honorable Rector of Universitas Warmadewa, distinguished speakers, invited speakers, and also participants, and moderator, Pak Nyoman Sujaya. Thank you very much, Professor Vairaya. Nice to meet you. I think this is already a late night in the Washington, yeah, because the time difference is 11 or 12 hours between in Indonesia and US, yeah. But we are also very honored to have you, and congratulations for your nice presentations, for being presenters in this international seminars. It is my honor to be here and to share also our experience in Indonesia. But as my background is public administrative sciences, so I would like to present my paper regarding the public governance, yeah, in responding the pandemic and post-pandemic era, yeah. So I will share my PPT. So my presentation entitled Public Governance for Economic Recovery in the Pandemic and Post-Pandemic Era. So I think there are very big changes in this era, yeah? And three driving forces for the future society is massive and comprehensive globalization, so-called global governance, technological convergence. It will create the digital governance and also knowledge creations. So it will establish so-called knowledge-based governance. So there are a dozen of trends and shifts that are happening right now and also in the next future. So 4 of these things are the most salient, important, and significant in determining the future of public and private sector organizations. So one is the disruption in every sector of life. For instance, COVID-19, as mentioned by Professor Faraya. So the ICT development, so artificial intelligence, big data, Internet of Things. The third is millennial workforce. So the increasing of number of millennial workforce, and mobility and also flexibility. So COVID-19 is just the latest in growing list of disruptors in confronting government and public governance in Indonesia and over the world, I think. COVID-19 pandemic and the associated socio-economic crisis are posing huge challenges. So rising many unknowns and also imposing ranging trade-offs. So both crises are global, but their impacts are deeply local, as well as in the community of Bali society and other small community in Indonesia and other countries. So if we are talking about response of governance in managing COVID-19, there are several policies released by the governments. So in the labor policies, for example, the government released a food package for migrant workers in Malaysia, expanding cash for work programs, pre-employment card, economic stimulus for companies, social security scheme for informal worker, and also easing social insurance and credit payments. But the government released also the public finance policy, including simplifying public procurement and tax incentive, budget deficit limit exceed 3% of GDP, and also discretionary power of the president in budgeting power, and other, I think, social security that released by the governments by giving some subsidy for family, for social assistance, cash social assistance, and so on. But also the government of Indonesia implemented some social distancing policy, so-called large-scale social restrictions, but also budget allocations for managing the COVID-19, including healthcare spending, social protection, tax incentive and credit for enterprises, and also economic recovery program. So I would like to summarize some government action in Indonesia. So handling with the COVID-19, some also may be observations that there are still weak coordination and poor public communication at the national level. So the non-existence of authority able to eliminate sectoral ego, so among the ministries and also national agencies, the absence of collective leadership. In the beginning, how we respond to COVID-19, I see that there were the absence of collective leadership at the national level has undermined local government's attempts. So because Indonesia is very decentralized countries like also United States, I think that the local government has their own authority to manage the COVID-19. And also unlimited executive discretionary power of the governments. So it will also cause the high accountability risk and potential abuse of authority. So outdated socio-economic data at the local level, and also single risk pooling insurance. So less government subsidy for areas with limited health insurance infrastructure. So there are three indicators in the governments of managing COVID: coordination at the central level, coordination between central and local governments, and also bureaucratic capability to handle with the crisis. The second is regulatory framework. Three key performance measures: temporary school and office closing, limitation on religious activities, as well as restriction on activities held in the public places. So there are also conflicting regulations among the sectoral ministries, especially in defining the roles of central and local governments. And also the law on local government was not used as the basis for issuing the regulations on large-scale restriction at the central level. So, and the third one is citizen awareness. I think the high violations of the social restrictions indicates low public awareness of the citizens, yeah, as mentioned also by Professor Paraya earlier. The socioeconomic disparity, for instance, high number of informal workers affects the community readiness. So widespread misconception, especially shared among uneducated people about their above average immunity, has complicated the situations. And around 3 million of people were still looking for ways to do mudik, yeah. I think in 2020 and also 2021, mudik still as expected by the people, especially from the urban cities area to the land and also rural area. And now the government restricted the mudik or traveling to the rural area to avoid the increasing the positive COVID rate among the Indonesian people. I think this is a lesson learned from the COVID, and we would like to speak about the future of public governance after pandemic COVID. Yeah. I think the development of artificial intelligence, big data, yeah, Internet of Things, and also the convergence of the technological convergence will change the interactions amongst the government itself, as well as between the government and also the society. Yeah. So the public governance will be changing after the COVID-19 because of experiences that we have already in the pandemic era by working from home or schooling from home, and it will change the interaction amongst the society itself, amongst the ministries, among the governments, units, and also between the government and the society. And what we see now is the generations change. Yeah. So the existing of millennial workforce. So the millennial generation born between 1980 until 2000 now entering the employment in the vast numbers. It will shape the world of work for years to come. So by 2020, millennial will form 50% of the global workforce. And millennials tend to be uncomfortable with rigid corporate structures and turned off by information silos. And they expect rapid progressions, varied and interesting career, and also constant feedback. This is the global phenomenon studied by Robert Walters in 2019, that 81% of professional rank start and end times as the most desirable flexible work arrangements. 40% of job seekers would turn down a role if it did not meet their flexible working arrangement needs. And 52% of employers agree that flexible working arrangement increase employee commitment to the job. And it happens 26% in the public sector. So I think it will more and more public sector will change this phenomena. Yeah. And this is the Harvard Business Review Analytic Service Survey in 2019 that there is changing workplace motivations from millennial, yeah, shifting from money to flexibility. So the millennial want more flexible schedule and work locations, access to training, and predicted to become more important than salary and benefits. So 68% millennials generation will flexible work schedules and also locations, and only 38% of the millennial want the salary and also benefit in their motivation to workplace. I think this is very fundamental reform. Yeah. So what feature of public administration, public governance to respond the pandemic and post-pandemic era? Yeah? I think we are entering so-called governance 4.0. So what we have to do is, one, to create flexible working arrangements by having flexible workplace, flexible work time, flexible workspace, and also teleworking. So as we did, I think in 2020 until now, yeah. And what we need is the new working space, so-called super applications, by creating single digital government platform and also smart digital office, yeah, where the people can also working anywhere, yeah, from house, from the cafe shop, and from other place where they can work in. And the third one is, how do we build the capacity of generation to interact with digital competencies, and also corporate university in the public sector unit. So, and the fourth is how we create the flat and network structure, yeah, with technological ICT, technological convergent ICT, robotic, nanotechnology, yeah, with network model arrangement in the public sector. And of course, we have also to establish so-called talent management. So promoting the open career system where the millennial from the private sector could come and entry also in the public sector, yeah, and source pool of talent management in the national level and also in the local level. So pandemic COVID-19 shows that digital governance is a solution and must for the future of public administrations. This is the next development of public administration after COVID. I think the paradigm changing is coming into the dynamics, into the network, and also the collaborative paradigm with digital organization and flexible arrangements, and the mixed combined generation between the millennials versus the baby boomers. I think the number of baby boomers now is 11% from the total of demography in Indonesia. So I think in 3 or 5 years, they will be phasing out from the public sector and as well from the private sector, and the millennial generation will be entering the public sector place, yeah, I think. And the competencies follow strategy and also the core challenges in the digital governance society. So I think this is the changes in the organizational paradigm. This is actually released from the OECD. I think still relevant to cope with the problem right now. So how we can stress on the continuous change, speed and responsiveness, flexibility, result-driven organization, virtual integration, constructive contention, as well as leadership from within. So collaborative leadership, co-creation and collaboration among the millennial generations. So what happened in the global trends in public sector? Yeah? So the standard 9 to 5 supervised job is getting slowly replaced by non-standard, alternative, and flexible work arrangements. So in general, flexible working arrangement can be found frequently in the public sector in several countries in the world, including in the US, I think, yeah. And also rights for teleworking and for flexible working hours are part of central or federal policies in over 15 countries. Yeah. So what drives public sector organization to implement flexible working? So the implementation of flexible work arrangement in the public sector is often driven by pro-social and environmental motives. So however, potential organizational benefits follow just behind. So a survey of cities human resource professional in the US identified as the 4 most common motives to alternative time schedule, to improve employee morale, to support employees' work-life balance, to increase productivity, and also to extend business hours. So the utilization of ICT in the public sector organization shapes new culture in the public sector, and also the proportion of young people, so particularly the millennial as civil servants, requires public sector organization to create a new working style in government set engagement policy. So this is the objective of having working arrangements. So from the perspective of organizational is to create outcomes of flexible working arrangements, to create performance, work engagement, and also job satisfaction of the employee, but also in the individual perspective, to strengthen the life domain balance between the organization and also the individual life, but also effects of well-being of the millennials. So we are facing in the so-called new era, so agility era. So the nature of scale of the global trends and shift are forcing the public sector organization to be agile. That means moving toward to flatter structure, striving more equality and opportunity, sharing strong vision and also purposes. So, but agility is needed to help the public sector effect a major transformation to seize opportunities and to achieve its objective. So agility is not an end and in itself, it is a prerequisite for being truly strategic. So we need so-called agile team. So cross-functional, share a strong purpose, commit to each other to deliver, and can deliver end-to-end core values. So cross-functional team members retain their autonomy in their respective area of focus and set their own work pace and supervise their own activities. However, they are expected to collaborate and leverage from each other's skill set to achieve the desirable outcomes. So, but we also prevent flatter organization become toxic. The flatter structure, there is a risk for generalization and confusion if the public sector organization fails to hone and also specifically direct their talents. Flat organization require greater coordination and group decision making. And the paradox is that the dismantling of hierarchical structure, but fostering the leadership. This is what we need. So in the new era, we have to transform the culture, transform the digital, using the digital development, to set new style of the leadership, new working arrangement, but also I think transform the structure. So becoming more flat structure, flatter and holocratic structure. So moving from hierarchical organization into the flat organization and flatter cheese organization, or even in the holocratic organization. So this is what the government in Indonesia are doing now to reduce the structure of organization in the government. So transforming into the functional, cross-functional unit organization. This is the skill of future leader. How a leader who inspires and motivates others, display high integrity and honesty, solve the problem in the life.
Excuse me.
This is the skill of leaders that we.
I'm sorry.
Okay, but I'm going to close the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
My last presentation, I think.
Yes,
the role of
thank you
public
very much.
organization for economic recovery is building the digital public services to make better investment climate, expansion of Indonesian national single window, and electronic governments, so the extension of electronic governments, So facilitating the citizen to open the business market by using IT, for example, electronic agriculture, electronic trade, electronic fisheries, and so on. But also building the capacity of civil servant and citizen to interact each other in a collaborative ways. Okay, I think we have to change the way we see the governments, public sector, are not single monolithic structure, but rather than network of large organizations, including the private sector, the citizens, and to be perceived as completely agile might be unrealistic for public sector organization, given the internal and external factors that come into play. But by adopting some agile traits, public sector organization could view changes as opportunity, not as pitfalls. So thank you very much for giving me time to share our experience and knowledge, how we creating public governance in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. Thank you very much. Get back to.
Thank you very much, Professor John. Yeah, this is Sergio, and if I'm not mistaken, I have quoted that Professor Sergio emphasis that there is acted by the governance, and of course, the COVID itself bring disruptors to all of us. So Professor Passengers gave the solution that is giving certain policies for the government, and the government is in action. The government will change after the COVID, of course, according to Professor Prasojo. And at the same time, it appears the millennial generation. So if this generation is good or not, maybe can be questioned in the discussion session. Again, Professor Prasojo, thank you very much. This is a very valuable presentation or information that we have got from you. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and now we'd like to invite Bapak DRS Erawan, PhD, to do the presentation.
Okay.
And
Okay, can I start?
Okay, please,
yes.
take your time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. It's so nice to hear from Professor Nikhil Varaya, from Professor Eko Prasojo. Each of those, I think it's the best knowledge we have globally. So each of them need, usually in one seminar, one of them is enough. but now, so the time is really an issue here. Okay, my presentation, can the committee help me to show my presentation, because I already sent it to the committee. My PowerPoint, please, while I'm speaking up. Okay, the title. Please help me to show my presentation, because I already sent it to the committee. Okay. Okay, waiting for my presentation. The title of my paper or presentation is about transforming tourism in Bali, an ecological alternative. I think my presentation will be have a strong foundation from the previous two speakers, from Professor Nikhil and also from Professor Eko Prasojo. Why I choose the title "Transforming Tourism in Bali," an alternative, an ecological alternative. It is because I believe that post-pandemic and during pandemic, we have a long reflection about how far we already doing the thing we're supposed to do. The debate, as far as I read about tourism and post-tourism or development, is about whether sustainable growth is the only way we perceive tourism should be. Whether enough nature to serve the need of the human being, whether the materialist point of view to seeing tourism is our future. That's the debate I'm trying to provoke for us to discuss for today. The transforming tourism in Bali, an ecological perspective, is a response toward growth-based understanding of tourism, which is, from my perspective, bringing a lot of problems, particularly for the point of view of nature, for the culture, and in some point for the economy. Because I had experiences staying in several hotels in Bali, and I found some hotels has more than 400 rooms and empty. And I asked the manager and people there whether the tourists will come back, and that's they are scratching their head. How far, when, and how the tourists will come. The question is whether the way we see development, growth will be sustainable substantially for Bali, for nature, for the culture, and for the economy in the Pacific. So my presentation basically is about 6 slides. The first slide is about the title. Second slide is outline. The third slide is the pandemic, COVID-19 as a moment of reflection. Why I said, can I ask the committee to present my PowerPoint, please?
Okay, still.
If not, I just say it. Okay.
It is it is still being operated.
Okay. Now we go to the third slide. Okay, please go to the third slide. This is the title. I already mentioned about why transforming tourism in Bali is so important, because 2009 is the time when the economic global economic have a new reflection, and the green economy become the alternative after the crisis of global economy. When I read the report from World Bank, from IMF, from so many other institutions conducting research on how we can move from crisis of COVID into new development post-COVID, most of them have these 2 alternatives, policy 1 and policy 2. The first one is policy 1 is sustainable growth, basically meaning that, okay, we can create and we can make it business as usual. At least they mention about the need to do several things, like restoring the traveler confidence, supporting tourism business to adapt and survive, promoting domestic tourism, and supporting safe return, providing clear information, evolving responses to measure to maintain capacity of the sector, strengthening cooperation, vaccination, building more resilient and sustainable tourism. All of those are, from my perspective, which is this report is from OECD, is business as usual. They assume that, okay, when after the tourism collapse, now we not need to recover. We just do whatever we should do. But the question is that, isn't it COVID is the moment of reflection? We should rethink all of the things. Whether we invest too much on the capitalist way of thinking about how is tourism should be conducted. Isn't it rooms in Bali already too many? Isn't it all the facilities for tourism is already abandoned, and we need to rethink about adding more? What about the nature? The competition between nature and the hotel is really pervasive. The land and tourism sometimes contradictory. the peasant and the hotel activities sometimes is not harmonious in the relationship. So many over tourism problems, and if we do it business as usual, I believe that we bring a burden to our nature, culture, and sustainability. That's why ecological perspective is my answer to this problem. We can debate this and we can disagree on this issue. The second policy usually made, it is basically much more romantic and what do I call it, normative in some sense. The belief that tourism, culture, and economy can become together. The question is that, isn't it too anthropocentric? Because our focus is more human. Human need jobs. What about nature? Isn't nature need rights? And then we need to understand the capacities of carrying capacities and the limits of the nature. How is the water? How is the forest? How is the ocean? All of those have a limitation. Nature has a limit. Culture has capacity and vulnerability to deal with over tourism. Under tourism is problematic in some sense because it is not, the economy is already so big to need to be fulfilled. So my cases on Bali, I hope I can reflect on Indonesia too. So sustainable growth, business as usual is problematic from my perspective. Balancing tourism, economy, and culture is utopian in some sense because the problem is much problematic than perceived. Slide 4. The slide 4 is about alternative policy. Yes, this is the alternative policies, which is basically learning from the experience of COVID, learning from the problem we had in 2009, learning from so many problems and crises we face. The perspective is beyond culture and nature, meaning that we need to understand how Balinese way of seeing tourism should be transformed, because I believe that that's the only way to solve the problem. We discussed about these issues from a class which is I teach at Magister of Administration, Public Administration at Warmanda Dewa University. We discussed several perda, particularly which is putting the issues of Trihita Karana and Sadkerti, which is meaning that Trihita Karana and Sadkerti is a way of respecting and appreciating the nature. 6 elements of nature: forest, ocean, lake, human being, basically the creature, and then the governance, and also the way of all of those functioning. Norm of Trihita Karana meaning how to make sure that we are able to be seeing the transcendent thing beyond the human, which is something supernatural. The belief with the human relationship with the God, the nature of relationship among human being, and then the nature relationship with the human being with the nature. The second element is institution of adat, subak, and locality. Those need to be understood because the functioning of all of the institution of tourism should be grounded into the foundation of ecological element, which is in adat institution, subak, and also locality. And the practical of ritual in Bali, which is believed that human being and the human need is not enough. We need to be able to make sure the balancing of nature need to be respected. And ritual is a way to purify all of the things, make all of the cycle respecting each other. Slide 5. how to make sure the two perda already is a policy in Bali made by the governor and our local parliament have been able to be manifested. We need a transformation. Professor Eko Prasojo already mentioning several elements of national and global transformation in terms of governance. I'm mentioning 3 elements of this transformation. One is that we need to restructure the perda because the 2 perdas supporting the Trihita Karna and Sadkepti as of local values, much focusing on the short term. We need to make it much longer term and sustainable way of seeing things. And second one is democratizing local institutions, because our institution up to now need to be reviewed. Some of them are so patriarchy, some of them are not democratic. We need to make it democracy. And the last one is we need a new practice. I call it self-epistemology, meaning the knowledge and experience of Bali is not an object of tourism product and activities, but it is a source of new knowledge where tourism need to look. How Balinese see tourism, how Balinese transform tourism according to the harmonious relationship between human, nature, culture, and economy. And human is not anthropocentric way of thinking, but human is a part of nature, part of spiritual being that need cognitive activism. And I believe that Warmadawa University will be one of the laboratorium try to push the idea of local experiences and local knowledge is matter. It's matter for Indonesia, it's matter for the world, because tourism with the way of capitalist perspective up to now bring problem. And I hope Balinese experiences and Warmadawa way of thinking can be contributive on this set. I close my presentation by telling, let's discuss about whether ecological point of view can be an alternative of economic and political ecology perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Erawan, PhD. So you have mentioned that COVID also brings problem to us, and there are policies that we can proceed to anticipate the problems given by the COVID. So just now it was mentioned that it is good to do the concept of Trihita Karana and empowering of traditional institutions, empowering traditional institutions and practices of rituals. So we need so want to be questioned, it will be in the discussion session. Now we would like to invite the last presenter, last speaker, that is from Associate Professor of Professor Ilham Santoso. Are you joining us? Okay. Yes. Good afternoon. Maybe still muted. Yeah.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the time, Professor Ilham Santoso, and take your time. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoons. First of all, thank you so much to Warmadawa University, Warmadawa University from Bali, for giving me the opportunity to deliver small thought, related to the economic, recovery ecosystems. So first of all, let me introduce. My name is Ilham Sentosa. Currently is associate professor at the University Kuala Lumpur Business School, Malaysia. Okay, salam from Kuala Lumpur. All right. It's an honor, to have sessions with Prof. Nikhil and also Prof. Eko Prasojo, Prof. Putra Erawans. So I do believe that my colleagues, they have identified, even detail about how the situations currently, and then what's next that we have to do in order to survive, on the dynamic, on the roller coasters of the environments. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, okay, it's an honor for me to deliver my thoughts. It's just it's a very simple thought, okay, not more than 15 minutes, I think. This is based on my experience, for the past now is almost 14 months already, almost 15 months since last March, last March. So every time during the discussions with the city mayor or stakeholders on the public sectors, they ask me questions that Ilham, we need a concrete agenda. We need a concrete movement on how to survive right now, because public sector totally important. Public sectors play an important roles to handle, to capture possibilities, possibilities during the pandemic, and also later on during the post pandemic. Okay. I try to not solve. I try to offer, I try to offer one technique, which is I can see that the technique is totally grounded, totally grounded. The technique is the techniques or the approach that's I call it as an integrated logistic. This is not new, integrated logistics. If you see like in ours, if you see in ours, in my slide right now, there's two avocados, two avocados on the left side and then on the right side. I do believe that all of you, if you see the avocados here, okay, don't worry, I'm not selling avocado, okay. So the idea in here is if you see on the left side, if we compare from the left and also the right side. So just from our simple view, so which one is better? Before I slice the avocado, the result become like this. Okay. So what is the message that I want to send? During the pandemic, and also for the movements, especially for the city mayors, especially for the public sectors in Indonesia, I push them for the optimizing local resources. Border right now is closed. Okay, border right now is closed. Even what borders Malaysia and Indonesia right now is closed. But products, products, and also what we call it is dimensions of the product still able to move, still able to create the traffic. So every time during the discussions with the city mayor, discussion with public sectors, stakeholders, I mentioned to them that we have a look what we have right now, what we have right now in front of our eyes. What we have right now is on the left side, on the right side. Let's we utilize. That is a totally grounded technique on how we survive right now. Okay. But Ilham, we don't have enough capital. We don't have enough. We don't have an investor right now. So I talked to them that just do simple mapping. Let's have a look what we have right now around our place. What are the things that we have around our neighborhood? But now there are three strategies, because my topic is policy and strategies for economic recovery. after we identify, after we provide mapping with all the resources that we have, okay, surround us, there are three strategies. You know, there are three policy that later on we have to design to encounter this strategy. Number one. Okay, this is what integrated logistics. So let me jump. Okay, this one. Number one is about ecosystems. Okay, this is one of my writings on the newspaper, national newspaper in Indonesia. Number one is designing ecosystems, designing the supply chains. Okay, designing supply chains. Right now is I cannot say that's limitations, but a challenge, challenge that's currently facing of the business stakeholder. They need a full support, from public sector. But public sectors right now is sometimes is far ahead, sometimes it's far behind. Okay, sometimes far behind. So the ecosystems between public sectors and business. So this is the first strategy that I want to highlight. It. Ecosystem is we talk about the chains. Yeah, we talk about chains. We talk about is from A to Z. We talk about from the beginning until the end, and also come back again to the beginning. It's a cycle, It's a cycle. This is the first strategy that every time during my discussions with the public sector stakeholders, I mentioned to them that okay, now you have a product. Okay, next, please give me the ecosystem. How the ecosystem look like? How the chains look like? We don't have this, Ilham. Okay, now please create. Do a simple mapping. Yeah, do simple mapping. Do a simple design that we have the cycle, which is that right now during the pandemic, this is the cycle, and later on, okay, inshallah during the recovery, this is the cycle. Just seeing the cycle with the, now we go to the second strategy. Just now, Prof. Eko Prasojo already mentions about what he called it as data. Ecosystems with the second strategy, I call it as integrated data. Okay, integrated data. So what the Prof. Eko already mentions about IoT, big data, IoT, big data, artificial intelligence. Okay. But the most important thing is the data must be accurate. The data totally representing what currently happening, in our situations. I give an example just now about this avocado, the avocado that I mentioned. Today our discussion is about avocado. Just a very simple avocado. I do believe that a lot of us in this group we like avocado. This is real assignments. This is real assignments. Forms one of my colleagues in. The right side. The right avocado is forms one place in the eastern part of Indonesia, Nusa Tenggara Timur, East Nusa Tenggara. Oversupply. Oversupply. Avocado is oversupply. And then locals, locals right now is screaming. How we are able to, accommodate this avocado? It's oversupply. Even the per kg, the price is totally very cheap. And then I talk to all this public sector there. See, you have an avocado. In your place, avocado is oversupply. Now, what are the ecosystems that you want to design? Ecosystem for the cosmetic, ecosystem for the premium products that we will send abroad, ecosystem for the another type of products from avocado. If you are able to capture Indonesia market, with the almost 250 million populations, it's good enough. But you have also another big market. I tried to contact my colleague in Turkey. They say, wow, Ilham, this is great. And that's when I sent the sample, say that, wow, this is amazing, Ilham. This is totally premium. And then they come up with the list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I asked the farmer. Farmer said that we don't have any knowledge about this. We don't know how to do this. Now, I knock the door, okay, to the local government. This is your job. This is your role right now. Why? Because the product is totally over. And then you're in the right time right now to design the ecosystems. Design from the A to Z, design from the farmer until to the buyer, and come back again to the, so it's a cycle. So this is only just one simple example, about avocado. So can you imagine that in Indonesia right now, under the under the sea, everywhere it's about sources right now. So I'm thinking about integrated logistics is one of the strategic tools in order to survive right now during the pandemic, especially when we talk about the economic recovery. But strategy number one is designing the ecosystem. Strategy number two is how the data must be integrated. Data of what? Data is when is the avocado is harvest. Data when is the avocado is situation is quite far away from the numbers of quantity that our buyer expected. Data, and data. So from this scenario, we go to the third strategy. Okay. Today I just come out with the three strategies. Strategy number three, we call it as a local, empowerment. Yeah, we call it as a local empowerment. The strategic business development, the strategic placement, talk about the ecosystem and also local empowerment. This is the third strategy. How we are able to right now to combine the ecosystem and also the data that we have discussed just now. The third one, this is a very, very important. Why? Because local empowerment is the way on how you bring, people, you bring the ground sites, to involve on the business. So this is also another strategy that public sector have to translate, have to translate these informations into strategy, into the policy, and how right now the three items, the three domains that we have discussed just now. Number one, designing the ecosystems. Number two is data integrations, and number three is local empowerment. So this is the three scenario that I want to highlight it, during our discussions. Of course, right now during pandemic, with the roller coaster of the environment, with the unpredictable scenario that we cannot see what happened this year, what happened next year. But survival agenda is a must, But survival agenda is a must. So this is a very simple strategy that I do believe that all of us in here know about this strategy. But combinations of those three strategies are totally important. Why? I come back to the first slide, come back to the slide when we talk about the integrated logistics. This is the pillars, this is the main, this is the main things that local government has to think right now. Why integrated logistics? Because based on the three strategy that we have just now, the integrated logistics, we play roles as a domain, as a main aspect of the economic recovery. And the rest later on will follow the integrated logistics. When we talk about tourism, so when we talk about ecotourism, supporting the integrated logistics. When we talk about agriculture, we support the integrated logistics. But the change must be there, the change right now. How to speed up our change right now? Okay, I repeat again before I close my speech. There are three strategy. Number one is designing the ecosystems. Number two is data integrations, and number three is local empowerment. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ilham. This is also very valuable information to anticipate the problem brought by the COVID-19. What is emphasized in this case is that there are three strategies. Number one is ecosystem, and number two is integration, and number three, local empowerment. So, and to know more about this one, let's have a discussion in the discussion session. Again, Prof. Ilham, thank you very much for your information. This is very valuable. Ladies and gentlemen, now we come to our last session, that is about a discussion. In this case, I would like to invite the participant to raise questions and directed, and to be mentioned to whom the question will be directed. Okay, the floor is yours. Ladies and gentlemen, please raise question. We have qualified speakers here. Or maybe before there is a question or a question, maybe the speakers would like to add, maybe any speaker would like to add something. Maybe Prof. Vairaya, would you like to add something before the questions?
All I want to say is thank the other speakers for their insights. And I would say that the issue is for Bali, I think everybody agrees that tourism may be one of the important drivers. And so what is going to be the short-term and medium-term policy about tourism? And then the long-term policy with respect to tourism. And I think Professor Erawan sort of made a good point that tourism as usual may not be the answer for the long term. But at least in the short term and the medium term, since the economy depends so much on tourism, how do we address the issue of bringing tourism back? So that was my sort of comment on listening to his interesting presentation. Thank you.
Sorry, still unmuted. Is there any question from the audience?
Okay, well, Mr. I have some questions.
Okay, would you please mention your name and from where, and then you can direct the question to whom? Just mention to the speakers.
Okay, well, thank you for the special occasion that has given to me. So let me introduce myself. My name is Permana. I'm from Warmadewa University, especially in public administration, Minister in Public Administration. So the question to Mr. Eko Prasojo, I agree with Mr. that still like pandemic COVID-19 show about the digital government as a solution must for the future. Or public administration. But in the reality, I see we have problem. Are not the government. I mean, like when we already we should go into the one. And the second one, we
Sorry, the internet.
understand.
Is the, I think, okay. Please, could you wait a minute, please? Okay, go on.
Okay, well, so I repeat all of my question. The first one, in the reality that we see about the public servant have not optimal to use the digital government. I mean, like when we are already registered on the digital, after that we show to the office again. And then the second one, we could not deny that all our society understand to use the digital, to use the digital government. So the question is about what is the best thing or what the first thing we should to do to solve this problem in this pandemic COVID-19? Thank you.
Is it the question directed to Prof. Prasojo? Yeah, okay. Would you please, Prof. Prasojo?
Yeah, thank you very much, Pak. I think we have to combine the strategy for the high-level educated people and also urban community and urban cities. Yeah, we could develop comprehensive digital governance. Yeah, with the integrated data using the artificial intelligence, the reviewing the process, business process in the government and so on. So I think this is not so far from our life today, because we are getting used to order food or order something through the smartphone. Yeah. So what I'm imagining the government for the next future is like when the people order food using the technology, yeah, like Gojek and Go Grab, yeah, using the smartphone in the very simple tools, yeah. But the task to transform the digital is not so easy, because we have to integrate all the data and review the process business and integrate the structure, yeah, and so on. So educate people with how to interact with the machine and so on, as well as change the paradigm, also the culture of the civil servant people. So the task of the government is establish the system itself, deploy capacity for the civil servant and the people. But for the people who live maybe in the very rural area, yeah, who are not educated with the ICT, maybe the government could also provide the manual public service system to the community. So like blended public service, yeah. So the one is digital public services, and the second one is the manual public service. Yeah, I think the local government play a very important role to transform the public governance into the new era after pandemic, yeah, post-pandemic, with agility of bureaucracy, yeah, the new capability of public servants, as well as the new culture of public servant to deliver the excellent public service to the citizen. So making short the public service to the citizen by using ICT and changing the culture. Thank you very much, Pak. I give back to you.
Thank you very much. I think the question.
Mr. Moderator?
Yeah.
Yes. Can I respond to
Yes.
Pak
Would you
Nikhil?
like to say something?
Yes, because I want to respond to the point Professor Nikhil mentioned before about how to see the problem now and post pandemic for tourism in Bali, because Professor Nikhil mentioned about in the long term we need to transform the way we see tourism, and ecological perspective is one way. What about short term and middle term? In some point, I'm agree with Professor Nikhil Faraya and also Pak Ilham and also Pak Eko mentioning before about the need of us to see the thing in perspective, meaning that Pak Eko mentioning about what is the future for global and also for generational need to how can new way of economic functioning people in Bali and other places in Indonesia particularly need to understand. And Professor Nikhil Faria approaching those from the perspective of economic activities. I'm saying that there are for short and middle term, yes, we need to make the existing economy is not crumble further. Hotel, mines, transport from the local tourism need to be supplied. and then international tourism need to be prepared to come back. But the question is now is that whether in the short term and medium term we need to instill new way of tourism. For example, much more qualified tourism, much more interested with ecology, much more knowledge-based tourism than mass-based tourism, which is only extort the nature and it's kind of idealistic way of thinking. But we need to rethinking now because during the pandemic, hotel, MICE, and transport need to be supported to be able to stand up again. But at the same time, if we look around Bali and Java and many other places in Indonesia and also some part of Asia, people able to survive with a small thing. Why don't we start from there? Because people with the so limited need and functioning that way make the nature much more comfortable to be lived in. Why don't we just keep this way of simpler way of thinking COVID pandemic teach us into post-pandemic? That's my rethinking about ecology. Because if we suddenly change way of thinking, suddenly we need everything more and more after the pandemic, I think the nature will punish us again with another pandemic. So yeah, we need to support and help short-term tourism, economic activity, and we need also new rethinking, like Pak Eko said. Okay, we need to rethink about digital issues. We need about data. Pak Ilham say yes. We need to do all of those things, and in small scale, we need also adding what learning we had during the pandemic, which is the simplicity. Life in solidarity, supporting your neighbor and other things. I'm kind of romantic. I don't want this will be left out and then suddenly we become capitalist creature again post-pandemic. That is the thing we want to mention. I'm thankful for Pak Eko, Pak Nikhil, and Pak Ilham to enlarge our understanding about so many important issues we discussed.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Erawan. There is a chat questioning you. Okay, there is a question to you, directed to you, that is about how to make a rule like Perda in anticipating the problem of condition of the tourism in Bali, so that at the era of the pandemic COVID, and so that the rules can be implemented and the rule can be sustainable. So how, the question is how to make
yes.
the rule like Perda. That's the question from the
yes.
audience. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. For people who for our friends who doesn't know what is Perda, Perda is a local regulation made by the executive and legislative to implement like a policy for handling pandemic and many other issues. So Perda is like a local regulation, legal basis for doing something. And in Bali right now, we have two main Perda, which is so important for Balinese Bali economy now and the future. And one of the Perda mentioning about the need of come back to the ecology foundation of economic tourism in Bali. So based on six harmonious, what you call it, respect to the nature, respect to the God, respect to the mountain, respect to the all of the the lake and others, called Sakyati. Sakyati means 6 elements you need to respect in order to make the ecological balance in the use of nature and culture. And Trita Karana means the 3 way of relating to the God, to the human being, and to the nature. The differences between this and Western way of thinking is that there is element of transcendental supernatural element, putting human not be able to exploit whatever nature has. And the second one is that there is a limitation of human being ability to understand reality. So they need to be much more humble in that way of thinking. So how to make the Perda able to put that values and norms? My suggestion is that the Perda right now we have made by our governor in our local parliament is 420 pages. But there is no serious effort to translate the harmonious relationship human and nature in the functioning of the organization, in the functioning of a budget. We need Pak Eko to guide us this, and also Pak Nikhil to help us with this, because the budget now representing activities, if we check it, is not directly related to the how to respect to the nature and other things. And also the institution or the structure of our local government is just copy paste of the national government plan. So it's not really prior thinking about, okay, what about ecological balance now in the future for Bali? What about culture balance? That is not reflected in the Perda. How to change it? From my perspective, just use the six dimension of ecological element. Use that as a way of structuring institution and also allocating budget. Because right now is that the value is Satkerti and Trita Karna, but when you see institution and when you see the budget, it's totally copy paste from the central government way of functioning. So it's different. Like one go to the north, the other go to the south, and I believe that will not achieve the Satkerti and Trita Karna we want. I'm sorry, my explanation is a little bit longer, but my point is that we need to be have integrity between the value of norm and in the beginning of our Perda and also in our structure of our regulation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Erawan. There is also a question from Pak Made Bram, questioning to the Professor Nikhil Varaya. The question is like this: I see that the pandemic is creating a more complex and uncertainty in the global economy. Vaccination is progress, but the virus is kept on mutating. So economy is deeply paralyzed because of the pandemic. Do you think Bali should shift our economy into other sector which are more resilient? That's the question to the
yes.
Thank
you. I think that's a very good question. But one thing I will say is that most sectors got affected by COVID. The sectors that did well were digital ways of doing things. They sort of did well, but otherwise, almost all sectors were affected. I think the point about whether Bali is too dependent on tourism is a good, it's an observation worth taking into account. And what are other sectors that the Balinese economy can diversify into? I'm not that familiar. I mean, I've come to Bali once, but I'm not very familiar with what else can be done. But certainly that's a possibility that if you can diversify the Balinese economy beyond just tourism and other sectors that may not harm the environment as intense tourism can. And I don't think Bali is sort of unique in that respect, that a lot of countries where they have relied very heavily on tourism that has extracted a toll on the environment, and long run, it may not be as beneficial. So certainly that is a possibility that there could be other things that could be done or other sectors that could be expanded. I mean, one could be, for example, if Bali had good education institutions, they could attract students from overseas besides local students. That could be a possibility. I'm not quite familiar with those things, but again, my point that was made also to Professor Erawan is that the short to medium term, in order to sort of bring the economy back, because people are so much dependent on tourism, how do we try to bring back tourism? Long run, one can think about how can you diversify away from just tourism. There it's certainly not, in other words, how to make tourism more eco-friendly and also eco-friendly in the sense that economics as well as the ecology. But to do something else will take some time and thinking. It can't be done very easily in the short run. That is sort of a long run problem, say 5 years plus. And the government as well as education institutions have to think about what might be other things that are important to diversify away from tourism. That's my sort of answer at this point. Thank you.
Pak
Thank you
Moderator,
very much. Well, it's very yes.
can I ask question to Pak
Yes.
Eko?
Okay.
Yes, Pak Eko. Yeah, because
okay.
Pak Eko Prasojo, can you help us to respond to the question of inequality regarding to the digital development, Pak? Yeah, what about people who much poorer than others? Yeah, poor people, how they can compete because digital gap is there. How about people in eastern part of Indonesia or remote area in Indonesia to be able to gain the digital future for them? Because it's rarely we have a chance to talk to Pak Eko, Pak Suchaya. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Pak Erawan. I didn't say that we have to transform all of the government to be digital one, yeah. But we have to combine or a blended system, yeah, between the online and also the offline one. Because we see that in eastern part of Indonesia, there are people who don't have not only the capacity, but also the infrastructure of technology itself. So we learned that from our exercise in working from home and also schooling from home, there are still gaps between the rich and also the poor people, between the urban and also the rural area, so in the capacity and also in the infrastructure of IT to cope with the digital government and also digital society. So what we have to do is, for the government has the responsibility to make the region and also the people has the same opportunity to handle with the ICT development, yeah, especially development of infrastructure of technology in the poor area and also in the rural area. Yeah. So, but we don't have to stop this digital transformation because it is pressure from the external, the globalized society, and also the digital advancement of using ICT, robotic, and also nanotechnology in the life of community and also the governments. So, but this is what we call government 4.0. Yeah, even the technology is very important, but the local wisdom, the ethic, and also local culture is still needed, because we want to also elaborate and also using the local values, local wisdom, like you have mentioned, for example, Trihita Karana, Sat Kasti, Swaka Dharma is some of the local values in Bali that exist for a long time in the community and in the religion, and also can be used into the government. So I observed in Wali Kota Denpasar, Pak Rai Mantra, that they are, he was using the Swaka Dharma and also Trihita Karana in strengthening the public service quality to the citizen, and it's helpful, I think. Yeah. Thank you very much, Pak Herawan.
Thank you very much. Would like to, is there any addition from Pak Ilham, Prof. Ilham, please? Would you like to say something?
All right. Thank you so much, Pak Nyoman Sujaya. All right, so just now I'd like to respond from Pak Erawan related to the learning. So there is one items that I want to highlight about learning in here is very interesting challenge, Pak Erawan. There's a term that we call it as a social business learning. Yeah, social business learning. So this is the thing that we need to socialize among our business stakeholder. And the most important thing actually is a government or local government, they have to put the social business learning as a priority, because for example, it will impact to the perda, it will impact to the local government rules. So how the local government rules later on able to capture the social business learning, within the survival agenda. So the term of social business learning, of course, in here we try to see how we are able to engage with the locals, how we are able to translate the welfare to the locals. So this is the first item that I want to highlight. Second, also from Pak Erawan just now, very interesting when we talk about about thinking very big and then thinking very small. This is the thing is a very important part, very, very interesting. So I have a lot of discussions, especially with the city mayor from Sumatra, because we are in Semenanjung, we are in the Peninsula Malaysia, we are very close with Sumatra. And then lucky until right now, border Indonesia-Malaysia still close, but still close. So every time when I have discussions with all the city mayors, Bupati atau Wali Kota, I mention to them that let's we think a very, very micro. Okay, let's we think about a very small thing that what do you have in your place. For example, there's once a regency. This morning we had a discussions that Ilham, we have a good pinang, So this pinang we don't know how to utilize, but we are oversupply in here. It's once a regency in West Sumatra province. And then I talk to them that let's we work together, but make sure that when you send pinang to Malaysia, it's not only just raw material, but we want to make sure it's a half-ready product, maybe for cosmetic, maybe for others type of a product that you need the industry in your place. So when you send to Malaysia, when later on from Malaysia we send to around the world, because Malaysia as hub right now is to facilitate all this raw material from Indonesia. So this is the thing that I want to highlight that how the policy able to capture a scenario from a very, very small and very, very macro. Because we know that all the business stakeholder, they currently they are lack in terms of the capital. So this is the role of local governments on how the court findings, on how the regulations able to facilitate all this roadblock. This is number 2 part. Number 3 about digital divide. This is also another interesting part from eastern part in Indonesia. So based on my experience, digital divide is totally correct. So this is what's happening right now, not only in Indonesia, but some other country also. So we come out with very simple solutions. The answer is collaboration, Pak. So collaborations that local government play roles again to facilitate these collaborations modes. Okay, there's so many. There's a lot of collaborations approach that governments may translate into the policy. So this is the three items that are very, very interesting in our discussions. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ilham. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, speakers, honorable all speakers, thank you very much again. You have given us very valuable information to us. Hopefully, what you offer to us will be implemented by the government or by the people having power in the institution. So indeed, again, I would like to say thank you all. And anything inconvenience, I do apologize. Hopefully in the future we can meet again in the kind of seminar. Again, thank you very much for Prof. Pairaya, Prof. Prasojo, Prof. Ilham, and Prof. Erawan, Prof.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Ilham.
Thank you.
And I do.
Okay.
And I would like to. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the presentation by the speakers. Thanks for the speakers. Thanks also to the moderator. And thank you very much for your attention and participation, all of people. And then before we leave, please open the camera. We take a photo first. Okay. Let's take a photo. Yeah. First, okay.
Thank you very much and have a nice rest.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
that's
Thank you,
all for
Thank
the
you.
international
Bye.
seminar today.
Thank you very much.
We hope there will
Prof.
be a
Prasojo,
lot of
thank you very much.
benefit to
Thank
all
you.
of
Thank you.
us. Thank you, Prof. Prasojo, Prof. Wairaya, Prof. Ilham, and Prof. Erawan. Thank you very much and see you later. Selamat siang,
Yes.
Bapak Ibu, and
Bye.
sampai jumpa.
Thank you.
Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om.
Om Santi Santi. Thank you.
Bapak Ibu yang belum mengisi presensi, silakan memohon untuk mengisi presensi. Kemudian monefnya juga, terima kasih banyak. Silakan diisi.
Halo, suaranya kok tidak masuk?
Ampura, Pak Agung, niki acara sampun usan.
Ya.
Nggih.
Tetap ya, saya permisi ya.
Nggih, terus nggih.
Nggih.
Agung. Permisi, saya Malih. Halo Bu Agung.
Om Swastiastu, nggih.
Bu Agung. Ketemu lagi Bu Agung.
Presiden gini.
Bu Agung. Bu Agung.
Oh iya ya. Hah? Ciro?
Nurul.
Ciro? Bu Nurul. Terima kasih.
Atur nuwun nggih Bu Nurul.
Terima kasih Suksmo. Kita ikut sama-sama webinar internasionalnya.
Grup periksa diri di
Dadah.
Nurul ya, Bu Nurul Umiati. Ya, terima kasih Bu Nurul. Suksmo sarang sami.
Bapak Ibu sudah selesai mengisi absensi nggih, presensi dan monefnya. Kalau emang sudah, silakan bisa untuk leave.
Presentasinya nggak ada, tolong dikirim ulang.
Iya Pak Iwan.
Presensinya tolong dikirim ulang.